Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our Ralph Bakshi Retrospective right here on planettyro.com as a special part of our Celebrate International Animation Day project. And you know, when I talk animation, there's only one cat face I've got to do these conversations with. It's the cat face.
Oh, is it animation? Because I thought it was because it was a cat.
That's a good point, actually. How could I ever talk about anything cat related without the cat face killer on? Yes. And you know what, man? I know you don't like being called the old boy. How about old boy for the other boy, or the obedient boy, or the obstinate boy, or the optimistic boy? I gotta have that old boy in there. I miss old boy.
I don't know, man. It just sounds like you want to call me boy.
Why you gotta be so negative? I didn't come up with your name. All right, let's move on, guys. Hey, Ralph Bakshi. A very, very critical and very controversial character in the world of animation. Oh boy. Sorry, Catface, you are somewhat unacquainted with the director previously, and only now recently you're doing this project with me, so you're kind of a Ralph Bakshi newbie. Is that correct?
I would say, like on our Westworld recording, yeah, pretty much. Like, I had no idea who this guy was.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about Fritz the Cat, which is Bakshi's first animated feature. It's actually the first X-rated American cartoon as a theatrical feature. There was a lot of bootleg ones, and it's debatable, but basically it's the most widespread commercially known X-rated cartoon. And yeah, man, I don't know where to start. Well, I do know where to start with this one from the very beginning. This discussion on Bakshi, again, it's going to be less critical and more opinion-based, because again, even though Ralph Bakshi is kind of an overlooked figure in the animation world, he has a big following. And again, I wouldn't call myself an expert on Ralph Bakshi. I've watched all his films ages ago. I know well of him. I respect him. I respect his ethos of wanting to just use animation to tell any kind of story creatively, X-rated. Just, I like that idea. He took it in a direction which is interesting against some of our other directors out there, Japanese or otherwise. And with this first feature, Fritz the Cat, again, I'm going to actually go a lot of behind the scenes. And I did a lot of research on this movie because there's a lot of things I did not know about this movie. But to get started, Catface, I actually just want your clean opinion of your experience with this movie going in cold. And from there, I'm going to backtrack and tell you my thoughts and the things I've got about this.
So, you asked me to do this because you felt like Bakshi had contributed to the animation game, at least significantly. So that's like the only thing I knew about going into this project, is this guy did something that was worth something for animation. So started watching this. I was watching it with my lady, and like we were really confused. And by the end of this film, Fritz the Cat, I went on Wikipedia to read the synopsis, and it literally told me everything I had watched.
Yeah.
But I still didn't understand what I had watched. Like, do you understand what I mean? Like, it told me everything they did, and that's it. I confirmed it from my viewing. Like, yeah, that's what happened in Fritz the Cat.
Yeah.
But I really didn't understand the story. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it was just nonsense to me. It was just like a lot of gratuitous animal sex, and that was kind of it. Like, it was just a meandering, like, the protagonist was a meandering deadbeat. And I kind of like, I think there's a way to do it where I would have liked it, but I was just like, what the fuck is going on? Because like at some parts it was really slow, and other parts it was just like very chaotic, and the guy was kind of whiny, kind of introspective. Like, he did have some nice insights, but for the most part he was just lazy.
Yeah.
He's just a lazy sex addict.
Yeah. All right, so we'll get back to the story in a moment. What did you think of the animation? Let's get to the main thing. What do you think of the animation style, character design, and stuff like that?
Probably the only positive thing I have to say is it gave me feelings of nostalgia. Not super strong ones, but I was watching it, I was like, okay, in terms of how the animation flowed and kind of like the style, it reminded me of some stuff I had seen when I was a kid, and I enjoyed it. One of those things like that kind of sticks to my mind. I know Bakshi did, but I have to rewatch it before we do the recording. Is The Lord of the Rings, like same guy. Yeah. So when I saw that stuff, I was like, okay, yeah, I kind of see the connection there.
Yeah.
Now, if you're into cartoon porn like I was when I was a teenager, I guess there's something there. Like, it can be. I mean, this specific cartoon is like animal anthropomorphized.
Yeah.
So like they're not exactly people, they're not exactly animals, and I don't know. When you're full of hormones, it might do something for you, but otherwise, it was just kind of weird. Like at this point in my life, I'm like a little bit younger than you in terms of cat years, so it was really just sort of I was watching this guy go around fucking things, basically.
Yeah, I mean, just to veer off topic just a little bit, ironically, a couple months ago, we did do a review for another animated feature from I think it was a German director called Feliday, about a cat with this kind of murder mystery thing, and it did have sexual elements there. Now, they weren't anthropomorphized to look human, because they did look like actual cats, but they did act human, they did have a community. So again, other directors, I know that's way in the future, that was in the mid-90s, and this is in 72. So there's that's decades, but decades ahead. So you were not completely surprised, we've seen hentai and stuff like that. But, my experience with this is not far from yours. Now, back in the day, I actually remember enjoying this film and thought it was cool. Watching it now, I did feel like the narrative was very incoherent and it wasn't sticking to one thing. And, I want to go a bit behind the scenes to talk about what this is based off, because some of you guys might know, some of you Ralph Bakshi fans might already know, this isn't an original idea Ralph Bakshi for an animated. No, this is based off an underground comic series made by Robert Crumb, I believe his name is. And Robert Crumb actually, back in the day, imagine in the early 60s when this comic was made before the animation, the comic industry only had the real giants, DC and Marvel, and if you were an independent comic writer, it was hard to get your things out there. Just imagine, no computers, no distribution, doing it yourself, and he was struggling. So Fritz the Cat was one of a bunch of ideas he had, and it was very popular because, again, this is a very outspoken person, very sexual, and he had his moments of, like you said, commentary and political ideas, and it was definitely something that stuck out. So I'm going to get into a little bit of history here because this is really interesting. So again, Ralph Bakshi didn't write this, he adapted it. Now, what happened was Ralph Bakshi was an animator, a long-time animator. He actually was a big collaborator on the old Spider-Man cartoons. Yeah, Spider-Man. That was him, and he animated a lot of those episodes. He did a lot, and he wanted to break out and make his own feature film. And what Bakshi wanted to do was his second movie, the next one we're going to talk about, which I think is called Heavy Traffic.
Yep.
That was meant to be his first movie, but someone in the industry advised him, you know what? If it's going to be your first movie, it's better to take the reins and better to adapt something to show your animation skill rather than your own story first. And then once you're established, once people like your style, then come with your own story. So that's why Bakshi went with this one. So Bakshi was a fan, picked up the comic series, because at the time, I think even to this day, Fritz the Cat is in like a collection of free comic stories of Fritz the Cat. And Bakshi picked them up, he loved them. So he got with Robert Crumb, and they tried to write the screenplay for it, but I don't think Crumb liked Bakshi's style, we was going with it. So Crumb actually refused, and he didn't want Bakshi to do the movie. But guess what? Crumb's wife sold the rights to Bakshi behind his back.
Whoa, what? Are you serious?
Yeah, and Crumb hates this movie. He absolutely hates it. He thinks Bakshi didn't do a good representation of the characters, didn't get any of the social commentary right. For years, he has lambasted this. And on top of that, well, there's some criticism there because, in fact, he doesn't even like the character anymore. He doesn't even like his own creation. He's kind of outgrew it. I think he's made comments that it's juvenile. But it goes a little bit deeper because he was so unhappy with the movie that he decided to kill the character. And he wrote a comic, which I believe is called Fritz the Cat Superstar, where he actually has Ralph Bakshi in there with Fritz the Cat Ralph Bakshi is a money-grubbing movie exec trying to extort Fritz the Cat, and then Fritz the Cat gets murdered by his girlfriend by putting a spike through his head. That's how much the original creator loved this movie.
I don't know, dude. Like, I kind of feel like I'm right there with the original creator of Fritz the Cat. I dislike this more than I like this.
But funny enough, this is what everyone says. And then you can read the comics. You can check on Google. The comics are actually not that far from. It's not exactly what he would have done, but it's the same tone. If the comics,
a little bit of what I read up on it when I was trying to figure out what the fuck I had just watched. Like, my understanding is, like you said, the character is pretty much the same, if not even worse. Like, I read that he was like in one version incestuous. It's like I'm not exactly the greatest moral compass, but I kind of put incest below what I watched in Fritz the Cat.
Unless you're an anime fan where incest is okay, but I'm joking. Look, so let me get to my opinions on the actual movie. So, man, let me tell you something, man. I didn't watch this movie for so long. The first opening scene of this movie is animals on the scaffolding taking a fucking piss. And then the piss freezes. You might not even remember this. The piss kind of freezes, and then the title card comes with all the names, and then the piss just drops on another animal on the pavement. It is fucking weird. I was like, what the fuck?
Oh yeah, I remember that. That's what started, like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this when I was watching it.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you because it's cool to see. I think Fritz the Cat is an interesting character and it's a good idea, but just like you said, man, it jumps from one thing to another. Fritz the Cat seems like this fucking hipster poser. He's a poser. He's a college student. He doesn't want to do the work. Who does drugs? Who just wants to fuck? And in the movie, he's like all these high school movies like American Pie, like fucking Stifler. He's like fucking the Stifler guy, except for he's a bit conscious, so he uses his smarts to kind of seduce women. I mean, the opening scene is he seduces these children. He seduces these other students.
Yeah, I was gonna say those weren't children.
So he seduces other young students to become enlightened by having a fucking threesome.
And it turns into a full-blown orgy in a bathtub.
Yeah, and while I'm watching this, I am loving the animation because it's so psychedelic. And let me tell you something about Ralph Bakshi, man. Fluid. The animation is so fluid. The characters move. There's a fluidity to his animation that I think is really phenomenal. And he carries it in all his other movies that we'll talk about again. But I loved it. But the thing that you'll notice about the movie is two things. Number one, just like you said, the scenes go on forever. The scenes just drag on. And this is very different from movies of the time because obviously Disney are the big guys I can think about when it comes to theatrical animated movies. Their movies go from A to B to C to D. This movie is a series of moments that kind of drag on. Like the orgy scene is like 10-15 minutes. It goes on, and there's another scene where they go into a church where Fritz is trying to run from the pig cops. I'll get to the characters in a minute. And that goes on for too long. It just feels like this atmosphere, it builds atmosphere on the one hand, but on the other hand, it's like, you need to tighten this shit up. And at the time, I don't know, man, he's an independent director, so for me to be critical in 2017 is very harsh. But I'm just saying, watching it now, you can feel the length of this movie because, again, Fritz the Cat as a character is a fucking arsehole. He's a hipster, he's an arsehole. I guess he's funny if you kind of like that thing, but you're watching the movie like, I don't really get the point. Is he enlightened? Is he trying to do this revolutionary thing? So let me talk about the animated characters and stuff because, again, it's an anthropomorphized world of animals, and the cats, I guess, are supposed to represent Caucasians. And I say that because the black people in the movie are meant to be represented by crows. Now, this didn't really bother me, to be honest. I thought it was creative. I know some people might think it's like gollywogs. Oh, look how black they are with it. To be honest with you, I think it's a good alternative. I thought it was fine. The thing I didn't like is I guess it does play up to the stereotypes. They're black, they're cool, they're in the club. Again, it didn't really bother me. It wasn't offensive, but the most offensive scene in the movie is a sex scene that goes on way too fucking long. It's when Fritz is trying to have sex with this big ass black crow, big titty, and it just goes on for so long. And it's honestly, it's borderline offensive just because it really does feel like indulgence, self-indulgence to the highest tier. It really feels like it's an X-rated look. This movie is is so popular for being the first X-rated cartoon, and I remember the movie being a bit more clever than it is because most of the movie is just really indulging in debauchery, constant debauchery over and over again, with little preachers, little revolutions here. And that one scene with the big black crow, the big busty woman, if you're on YouTube, I'm actually going to put a picture on the screen so you can see it. It goes on and it's just like, I don't really get it. They've already seen the 3, 4 sex scenes. So let me just wrap up the storyline. Fritz the Cat jumps from one bed to the other. He sprouts this political bullshit, but really he just wants to get laid. And at the end, he ends up meeting these, I don't even know, like this Hitler killer clan thing, and he ends up getting blown up, and then he ends up having an orgy at the end. By the time I finished watching this movie, I was kind of like, I don't remember this being so fucking nonsensical too. I was like, what the fuck? This just seems like a fucking trip. This whole movie, honestly, man, I know I'm going to get shit for criticizing the movie and all that. The movie, honestly, it works great if you're high, because I think this is the perfect kind of animated movie you see in the club. You see it for the visuals, because for the story, no, there really is no story. He's just spouting garbage political nonsense just to coerce women into his bed, and then he jumps from one scene to the other. And the comic series had elements, like he's meant to be a spy, he's meant to do this, he's meant to do that. This movie, it starts and it ends, and there's no growth. He's just an asshole looking for sex. When I was younger, I could see why I liked the movie just for the sexual elements, but to be honest with you, I always thought the character was smarter. And maybe that's why Crumb, the actual comic director, is upset, because Fritz just seems like he's using his smarts to get laid, and that's it. And that's all the movie does for the character. And that's disappointing, because I actually remember this movie a bit more fondly, and coming away from it, I was just like, the movie is a sexual spectacle of debauchery and really great animation, but it's a fucking trip, and it's best observed just as a, I don't want to call it a relic because it's a bit of an insult. It's a visual spectacle, I'll give it that much, but there's absolutely no story here. It is borderline offensive at certain parts. As a black person, I was kind of like, you kind of went too far here. But, oh, and lastly, the thing I didn't mention, but this bothered a lot of people. The dubbing for this is pretty bad. If you listen to the characters, they just sound like Bakshi didn't record them in the studio. He just records the characters in whatever room they're in. You can hear the background noise of where they're in, and there's no consistency in all the characters. And the only good side to that is the characters he's got, the voice actors he's got, they feel like real people. Everyone feels like an average Joe, a Joe Blogs, just a normal person. But they sound like they're in the street. They sound like, and it just, the audio levels is just kind of weird. So, yeah, I'm going to let you speak now because I went on a bit of a little rant there. But yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. This doesn't age well as a narrative at all.
I don't know. I think you hit it on the nail. I mean, like, for hand-drawn animation, it's very smooth. It's not the prettiest thing I've ever seen, but it looks better than worse. The voice acting, dude. Like, sometimes the guys will be like jumping around and super excited on the screen, but they'll be talking like how we're talking right now.
Yeah. Like
just reading off of paper. So yeah, the dubbing was pretty bad in my opinion. And I think he reused some of these voice actors throughout his works, at least the other few videos, movies I watched. And it's just like, I don't think there was any improvement. Just as a spoiler, I don't think there was really any improvement in the voice acting. The story, like I said, that's like the first thing I commented on. It's just nonsense. The guy, I don't even know if I would say he's smart. I just say kind of rambles and it gets him laid sometimes. And that's kind of the story. Yeah. Otherwise, he just has no direction and he wanders around and does kind of nonsense, honestly. He's way in over his head, if you even want to look at it and try to piece it together as a narrative. Otherwise, he's just kind of a buffoon, in my opinion, and it's not super interesting to watch because this story, if you want to call it a story, could have been cut down by like a third to even a half. Like, the scenes could have been cut in half, and they probably would have been better if for no other reason than it didn't feel like it was dragging out.
When we think of an anthropomorphized world, look at BoJack Horseman. I know animation's improved and we learn from each other, but I see BoJack Horseman, I'm thinking, yeah, this is the kind of the best idea of this kind of thing. And I think Fritz the Cat as a character would work so much more in 2017 because there would be a lot more nuance and intelligence written into his character. And, you know, everyone loves cats, so I think this could work. But I don't know, man. And again, I didn't read all of Crumb's works, and Crumb's work is much shorter. This is a long-ass movie that is padded out to hell. So maybe as a TV series, it feels as an X-rated TV series, 20 minutes, with a little idea here and there. If we just take the first element, like the first element, maybe he's in college, he gets a band together with his friends, he's just trying to coerce these girls. That's one episode. The second episode, he's trying to, become the cool cats with the black crows. And the third episode, it would work better like that. But as a movie, it just wasn't executed well. It's just a visual spectacle. You're there for the exploitation of sex and the animated themes. And I hate to hate on Bakshi because again, he wrote the screenplay. I don't think he did a good job with the story, and I just think I appreciate what he was doing here, to be honest with you, overall, but the story itself is what I want to focus on. Does not age well at all, and because of that, I can only say this should be watched again in the background, visually, in a club or something, and for that, I think it's a part of the animation history. It's kind of a spectacle in that way. It's fine. If I had to give it a rating, I'm not finished, but I'll just say the rating now. It's definitely an acquired taste. It's the definition of an acquired taste. I think some people, druggies, will love this out of their mind, but anyone now that loves animation will think this is fucking weird as fuck.
I don't know, dude. I can't imagine enjoying this lit. I gotta give this a not feeling this. I'm sorry.
You're giving it a not feeling this, damn son.
Yeah, it's just like I would feel like my life would be better if I hadn't watched it. That's the best way to put it.
Damn,
I
son.
feel like that was a loss of time. I'm still confused. Whenever I think back to it, which I would like to not think back to it at all after this recording, I'm just gonna be confused. I mean, that's literally what it serves as. I think because he has such a wealth of work, there's other stuff we could look at and be like, oh, okay, that's the guy that did that. And I can see how that transgressed eventually into like BoJack Horseman. There's so much good TV out there nowadays, like compared to like 10 or 15 years ago. I don't see a need for this. I mean, like I said, you got BoJack Horseman. I'm sure there's other adult animated TV shows that, depending on your tastes, probably would be a better niche fit than Fritz the Cat adapted to something modern nowadays. I'm sorry, I don't like this. I don't.
No, well, it is what it is. Let me say this, some more behind the scenes information. The movie to be made was budgeted under $1 million. The movie made $90 million because I'm assuming just the controversy and the spectacle of having your first animated X-rated cartoons you can see in the theater got the butts in the seats. People love to see that. Not sure how they felt about the story. If you go on Rotten Tomatoes IMDb right now, people are very critical on the movie. And honestly, this is a thorough line through Bakshi's work. It's a 50-50 split. This is one of the more positives that people feel positive about. But definitely people love this movie and people hate this movie. And I would say it's like 55 love, 45 hate. That's kind of the general consensus. But here's the thing. Of the 90 million the movie made, Bakshi and Crumb didn't get fuck all, and they have been very vocal about how they got ripped off by Hollywood at the time. And again, this was the 60s, 70s where independent directors and newcomers to the field were getting ripped off left, right, and center, and they didn't make shit off this movie.
Wow, that's insane that they made that much and they didn't get anything.
They didn't make anything, both of them, not just Crumb as the original writer. Obviously, he got shafted because his wife had the movie rights anyway, but they didn't get anything. They've said it, both have said it publicly. But there was a sequel to this movie.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and it wasn't made by Bakshi because he was done with this as well. And it's called The 9 Lives of Fritz the Cat. And I did not know this movie existed until I was researching this. I looked at it, and you know what? It's very much in the same vein in the movie. And honestly, after what you can watch it on YouTube, guys. It's on YouTube. And I really fucking hate the character. Like, I'll just say this. If you don't want to watch the second one because you hate this movie, let me just say this. In the opening scene, the movie, I think actually, these guys must have heard me speak right now because the movie is a collection of segments. Or just like I said, I think would have worked better. And the first segment is Fritz has got a baby, he's got a wife, and he's a horrible husband. He's just walking around the street, wants to fuck around. And there's it's like, I think it's 10-minute segments, it's like 6 or 7 of them. And it's just him in different situations, which again, I thought was a better use of the movie. But I fucking hate the character because when I see some of the shit he was doing, debaucherous, manipulative, fucking scumbag, using his wise ass and intelligence just to cause people to having ladies having sex with him. And yeah, there was a sequel. It did terrible. Because honestly, by this time, the novelty of the X-rated cartoon was gone. But the director who did do it in the same vein. The animation just is off compared to the first movie. But I think it's in the same spirit. So I will commend him for keeping it the same and not just toning it down and changing it completely. No, it's still off the wall for Fritz the Cat. But the novelty wore off. It's got terrible reviews, terrible ratings. That's probably why I didn't know about it before. And the legacy of Fritz the Cat, again, a lot of people say it's just a relic. it's kind of an experimental movie. To me, it was way too much dead space, way too ridiculous, way over the top. And ironically, I'm going to say something that is very uncool. This is the kind of movie, if your mum says, I don't want any naughtiness in my cartoons, this is that taken to the extreme. This is the movie, if your parents saw you watch this movie, you would be fucking dead. Back in the day, honestly, it's a movie that would make your parents denounce cartoons.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's why so many people want to watch it, just because, like, oh, this has been forbidden to me for so long, and then this is the first one. So they all ran out there and watched it. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of. The sequel, I'm not surprised it bombed. I mean, like, if it was anything like the first one, which sounds like it was actually kind of improved, but still pretty much the same, I can't see it being great.
So anyway, guys, that's basically, I know we're very critical, but honestly, we got to be honest, guys. If you thought I was going to come and start kissing Bakshi's ass because I'm doing a retrospective one, no. I'll say this again, because I said this in the introduction video. I respect Ralph Bakshi. Doesn't mean I'm a big fan of his work. And honestly, he's got a lot better movies. I'll tell you right now, I like a lot of his other movies more than this. And to be honest with you, again, this isn't his original work. His next movie, which we're going to talk about, Heavy Traffic, is what he wanted to start his filmography with. And again, that's going to have a clean slate to talk about that movie one. But right now, this was the Fritz the Cat discussion with your boy Donald Wonder and Catface Killer. Yeah, man. Guys, leave your thoughts and comments down below. Do you think we're being too critical? Do you think that we're missing something in the movie? Is there something we didn't cover? I think we kind of covered it all. And I had a lot of notes, but I didn't really want to spend too much time and completely destroy and dissect the movie. But honestly, I'm a very open-minded guy. I just don't think this ages well at all, and I just think it's a sexual spectacle of animation, and that's it. It's kind of hentai, basically. It's hentai with a very loose narrative.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's probably a pretty good analogy. I mean, over the years we've pretty much shown that you tend to be more forgiving and open-minded about stuff than me, and like, I don't know, like when I said on Facebook, like, out of the stuff I watched, it gave me a strong feeling. That strong feeling was confusion. I mean, when we talk about his other films, I don't think I'm going to be that much more positive. So, but I'll be there to talk about it.
I'm glad, buddy, because I like your opposing opinion. And again, I don't dislike a lot of his other movies like this one, but I will say this, and I don't want to spoil anything. I said this in the introduction. I think one of Bakshi's weakest points is he doesn't get his narrative across. And in his other movies, I think we can see a bit more clearer what he's trying to say, especially with the next couple, which are very big social commentary movies. But I just think they're mixed up in his execution. I just think his execution as a storyteller is not great. But as an animator, absolutely fantastic. So anyway, guys, if you like this discussion, stay tuned for the other ones we're going to do for Celebrate International Animation Day with the Ralph Bakshi Retrospective. My God, I got to do 5 takes on everything I say with this guy.
I know, dude. It's like, it is kind of a tongue twister, though, in your defense.
Thank you, buddy. Thanks for your forgiveness, Catface. I want to thank you for joining me on this one, as always.
Yep, you got it.
All right, and guys, don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you want to subscribe to the channel. Give us a like. If you're listening on the podcast, thanks for listening. And again, guys, we'll see you on the next recording.
Peace out.